Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Certainly welcome to this regional CSforALL Commitments webinar for our friends in Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, and beyond. We have several on the CodeCrew and CSforALL teams who are actively working to make the CSforALL Summit this year a success. And you'll hear today from me. I'm Meka Igwekwe, Executive Director at CodeCrew, as well as Cami Belgrave, who will join us. She is the CSforALL Senior Director of Programs and Partnerships. For our agenda today, certainly we welcome all of you as we have. We'll share some updates with respect to the CSforALL Summit, as well as share a little bit more about CodeCrew and what we do as an organization. We'll talk about how to make CSforALL commitments, as well as why these are so important and what the opportunities are for each of you as commitment makers. And then we'll spotlight some of CodeCrew's own commitments in this regard. And certainly all of you are welcome to ask questions at any time during the webinar, as well as we'll have some time at the end reserved for that purpose. Hopefully everyone is good with this. Our norms will be that this will be a recorded session so that we can share this with others after this event, as well as if you would take a moment to update your name to also reflect your organization. We'd love to have a better sense as to the groups that are here, as well as the individuals. Again, questions are encouraged, and the chat and the video recording will all be shared after this. And if anyone has any questions at all, like I said, just fire away. With that, we'll get started with the CSforALL Summit, and we are tremendously excited that the summit will be here in Memphis this October 19th through the 21st. And so, this is actually, it's been since 2019 since the summit's been in person, but it's happening, and it's in person. We're back together again for the first time since 2019. It'll be at the Guest House at Graceland, and it is, if you've never been there, it is a beautiful new hotel and conference center that you will all enjoy. So we certainly hope all of you will be in attendance. And the theme for this year is that we'll be shining the spotlight on is game changers in computer science. And so that it is an apropos theme for all that all of the whole world has been through with respect to the pandemic and its impact on education, and all the game changers alone that just came from that learning experience of that significant speed bump, plus so many more game changers. Cami, I'm not sure if you have anything to add, but like I say, feel free to chime in if you'd like.
Sure. So as Meka mentioned, we've been, our goal was to come in 2020, but of course we know what happened in 2020. And so this has been 3 years in the making, and our goal is to really make it one of our best summits. CSforALL is a national organization focused on providing access for students, access through what I like to call collective impact, right? Ensuring that all of our students are able to actively participate in some component of CS education, rigorous, sustainable, impactful CS education. Similar to math, science, English, we believe that CS computer science should be part of your high school experience and not something that you're first experiencing at the college level, which is currently, as we all know in this space, how most students kind of receive CS unless they're in a school that's either focused on that or has some funding to support that. So we try to operate at the systems level to really create that intentional look at ways to provide CS to students, be it via the district. So we have district facing programs, we have community facing programs, we have out of school time facing strategic programs, and then we bring, a multitude of folks together through our membership. The summit was kind of a little bit of background on the summit. It was designed to really engage organization with a vested interest in CS to make a call to action. Like, how do we get the community making noise about CS and bringing it to the attention of the powers that be? So we host it in different cities every year. We started in DC at the White House in 2016. This is going to be our 6th year. Then we went to St. Louis, Missouri. We've been in Detroit, Michigan, Utah, Salt Lake City. We've had 2 virtual summits because of the pandemic, and now we're going to Memphis, Tennessee. So this is actually going to be our 5th in-person summit outside of the 2 virtual summits. And really the goal of the summit is to bring the entire community together. So it's not just about educators, it's not just for researchers, it's not just for a specific group within the CS ecosystem, but it's for everyone who has a vested interest in CS. We want to create those cross-functional opportunities to interact with each other. So we're bringing together the teachers, the decision makers, right? The district leads, the program providers like Meka, like the CodeCrews and the other companies that are doing work locally to elevate CS in their community, the policymakers, the funders, the government funders like the National Science Foundation, who partner with, fund a lot of the work. So we bring together the entire community so that we can create those organic networking opportunities, but also make noise around CS annually, nationally, every year through our commitments model, which you'll hear more about later today. So I just wanted to shed some light on the history of the summit, the purpose and goal of the summit, and why it's really important to bring it to space, because when we leave that space, our goal is to ensure that there's a lasting impact and some sort of actionable goals that would help to continue to drive CS even deeper within that space. And as an example, in 2019, when we hosted our summit in Utah, we had the Lieutenant Governor come up and make a commitment to impact in CS. And because he said that on a live stream in front of 5,000 people and 700 in person, when he became the governor, he had to hold to that commitment. And so he invested, I forget how many millions of dollars into CS in Utah for rural students and students who do not have access to computer science. So it's a really, we really try to drive home that impact and what it can do for your community. But if you have the whole country coming together, everyone who has a say in CS in a space and making noise, the powers that be hear about it and they really advocate for that change. So that was a mouthful, but just wanted to put a little context into why we wanted to bring you guys together today and share that information with you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Cami. And so I'll share a little bit about CodeCrew as well. As I mentioned, we are the regional partner with CSforALL to bring the summit to Memphis. We are based in Memphis, and we are very focused on diversity and inclusion in computing. We do that through a number of ways. We're very active with respect to advocacy for computer science education. We partnered with the CS4TN coalition to help get some of the recent legislation passed for computer science to now be a high school graduation requirement in Tennessee, as well as computer science being in every school and there being recurring funding for teacher professional development. Back in 2019, we led the effort for the state to just have a statewide plan for computer science education, for example. But we also do a lot of direct programming with kids and teachers. So we go directly into schools and with in-school and after-school programs to teach coding and computer science to kids. We do a number of exposure events, including hackathons and the Hour of Code and a number of other half-day, one-day, two-day events to get kids excited about computer science and let them have outlets to demonstrate their abilities in that regard. But we also train teachers to teach computer science in schools, and we also train adults through a 6-month coding boot camp to train adults to become entry-level software engineers. And we are, no one's more excited than we are about the CSforALL Summit being in Memphis. Not just in Memphis, but in Tennessee, in our tri-state region, because a lot of positive things are happening. Our friends are in Arkansas across the river. have been leaders nationally in this regard for computer science education. Tennessee now has made great strides in that regard. Mississippi also has recently passed legislation to put computer science in every school. It was not yet a graduation requirement, but the momentum here in this part of the country just makes it all that more exciting to have this national event to showcase what has been accomplished through this commitments model that we're speaking of today. To share some more facts, again, the conference will be in Memphis. The summit will be in Memphis. There are sponsorship opportunities for if you or your organizations or anyone in your network are interested. Certainly, we welcome that as well. But certainly, this call is about, and this webinar is about the call for commitments, which we'll speak a bit more about. And there, of course, at the summit, and we invite all of you to attend. There will be appropriate health and safety measures, especially given the COVID-19 pandemic. And for those that can't be there in person, there will be some live stream and recording options, but obviously, you know, the best experience is to be there in person. And so we certainly encourage you to be there and join us. So what is a CS4All commitment? This will probably be like the only slide I just kind of read word for word, right? But what a CSforALL commitment is, it is a new, specific, and measurable action, right? Or commitments are actions aimed at advancing the goal of rigorous and inclusive computer science education for all U.S. youth, and are designed to grow support and momentum for sustainable K-12 computer science education system in and out of school. And now that's a mouthful, but some key words to recognize here are new, specific, and measurable. And I've got a brief animation I'd like to show and share with everyone in that regard. In fact, give me a moment here to make sure that the audio is set to do that. And so I'm going to reshare my screen, make sure I set that share sound flag. And hopefully everyone can still see my screen. And let's.
Access to computer science.
Could everyone hear that? Cami, can you confirm that you could hear that for the brief second I played it?
Yes, I was putting a thumbs up, but I realized you couldn't see me. Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, excellent. Let's start it over.
Access to computer science has never been more crucial to preparing U.S. students for the future. Together, it's our job to drive action in the computer science education space. Are you committed to helping build the future? All CSforALL stakeholders are invited to make CSforALL commitments. CSforALL commitments are new, specific, and measurable actions taken by community stakeholders in support of achieving the ultimate goal of computer science for all U.S. students. Examples of what commitments can be: workshops, computer science courses, coding lessons, electronic devices, and many more. A commitment gives stakeholders the opportunity for partnerships. Organizations from all parts of the U.S. are making commitments. Commitments are announced annually. Join us in making a CSforALL commitment. Learn more or visit us at Summit CSforALL. Make a commitment at www.summit.csforall.org/commitments.
Excellent, thank you. And so let's answer the question with respect to why it's so important to make CSforALL commitments. Cami alluded to many of these points earlier, right? That it provides a national platform to announce your new computer science effort, right? Imagine this, that we're all actively working to bring computer science education to as many kids as possible, to build a culture that includes computer science education, which is so important today in the 21st century. But having a mechanism by which we're connecting new partners from all around to actually jointly announce their commitments, brings national attention to the work, right? And so it ultimately lifts and increases the impact of our work for all of us, as well as the footprint for your stakeholders. And so through this mechanism, we're highlighting your stories, we're bringing attention to the work that you are in ways that that makes the sum of the parts greater than the individual parts. And what's also great is that the measurement as part of this movement and part of this greater community is made through tools that CSforALL provides, including a data visualization tool that I'll show a little bit of in a moment. You'll also see that if you're interested in making your commitment, that there's a URL here that you'll see all throughout the presentation, such that you can do that. I mentioned that data visualization. Here's Tennessee from 2020, for example, right? That there were 21 commitments made at the state level from 10 different organizations. But state by state, you can see Arkansas, Mississippi, and other places around the country, not only the numbers of commitments, but the categories of those commitments, from families to students and youth, to teachers, to school districts. You can see that, and you can see that year by year, such that you can see how that's increasing, how your work in computer science education fits into a greater narrative that again brings attention to this important issue. You all are aware, and certainly, as I mentioned in our region, computer science education is gaining significance right up to the state house levels. Everyone is recognizing how important this is, and I don't have to explain that to all of you, as evidenced by your presence here. But not only with the visualization tool can you see how how your commitments fit in the landscape nationally, but you can also see and learn more about the commitments that others have made. Here are some commitments from 2018 and 2019 in Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi. It scrolls down further. In fact, you can see all of them all the way back to the first commitments submitted back in 2017. And so again, it brings national attention at the summit, but it also provides a mechanism for connecting your commitments to a greater community, and hopefully, again, building that national culture for computer science education that we all want to see for the children that we serve. So how do you make a CSforALL commitment? First of all, the deadline.
Before you get into that, can I just butt in for a quick second, Micah?
Sure, by all means, by all means.
Yeah, because I think there's something important here as well. It's not just connecting with the national community. We provide commitment makers with tools to elevate the work that you're doing locally as well. So when you make a commitment, we embargo the information, and it's announced on the summit stage via the live stream. We select a few, because we get hundreds of commitments. So we pull some out. We have, of course, highlight some local commitments and lift that up to the level of actually being able to share the work that you're doing on stage to the live audience and live stream audience, which is over 5,000 at any given time. We provide each commitment maker with their own press release template, their own press kit, so that they can promote it locally. So you have something that you can go to a newspaper, your local newspaper with, or your local TV or radio station with, to say, hey, we're doing this thing aligned to this big national thing. And then we have a national announcement that we make, which is highlighting X amount of organizations have committed to CS impact and CS education. And we break it down by the groups to benefit. So X amount of organizations committed to serving students, teachers, building capacity, et cetera. And then we also lift up the commitments throughout the year. So every month we promote individual commitments, 2 to 3 in our national newsletter, on our local Slack channel, on our websites. And then we also provide opportunities to call commitment makers to share what they're doing. So if it's impacting students with disability, on Disability Awareness Day, we're going to call those commitment makers to be on a national webinar. Or if it's teachers during CS Ed Week, we'll call on commitment makers. So there's really a lot of opportunity to not only highlight and lift up the work, but it's that, again, that collective noise, but also align to the individual efforts and how do we raise that up locally. So it's all about elevating it and highlighting the impact of the work. Additionally, something that Mecca doesn't know is as of this year, we started tracking commitment progress. So over the next 5 years, you'll be able to actually see your impact, because we will measure that next year, get an assessment of where you are, what are some of the barriers to success, have you overreached, have you underreached, like where you are with that. And then we'll be able to say, okay, collectively, this is the impact of Tennessee-based commitments. So you can see in 2021, they had this. By 2024, this is where they are. These are the students being impacted by these organizations making commitments, and these are the ways that this organization is creating impact. So it also gives you a way to measure your impact across the CS landscape. So that's another cool thing that we're trying to do in terms of enhancing the visualization and really getting some collective data around commitments as well. So thought I'd lift that up because it was really important.
Thank you, Cami, and that's why you're here. make sure that we provide a comprehensive set of information to everyone here. So, but very good points, and I'll just circle back here to the fact that the deadline for the commitments, given that the summit is next month, the deadline for commitments is September 9th, and you'll see that a commitment is easy to make. Right, it is it can be as simple as a sentence, even as this example here, where you're making a statement, 1 or 2 or 3 sentences that basically publicly announces and states what your goal or your intentions are with respect to your commitment. So in this example, the Dallas ISD, it mentioned their collaborations, and they're going to provide PD workshops for 1,500 educators in Texas by spring of 2020 or 2022, for example. But we actually make it even easier. Our friends at CSforALL actually make it even easier to make a commitment, because they actually provide a commitments wizard as well that you can use. And if you go to this URL, commitmentwizard.csforall.org, with simple clicks of a button, it will complete the elements that need to be added to basically information about who you are and your commitment, but also we also seek your logo so that you could be highlighted on the page, like I showed you previously, in other ways. And so with the commitments wizard, it's ridiculously easy, I would even say. And once you've gone through the process, it shows you your results and reminds you what your commitment is, and you can copy and save that as well. And so it's really, really easy, and it doesn't cost anything to do a commitment. In fact, that's one of the things I've been learning recently, is that some people think it costs something. It doesn't cost anything to do a commitment. Really, we want to bring attention to this using the commitments framework in the ways that I and Cami have described. Bring attention to computer science education, but also bring attention to your work as well. And so again, as I mentioned, commitments opened. They've been open for some time now, but the deadline is actually September 9th. So now is the time to submit your commitment, and if there's more information needed, then, or any sort of data discrepancies or anything that needs to happen, you'll hear from CSforALL in that regard. And then, as Cami mentioned, in October there will be press releases, as well as the 2022 summit that will highlight the commitments. And we hope that some of you not only make commitments, but that some of your commitments are highlighted on stage. The very first year, I think we at CodeCrew made commitments. We were also highlighted on stage, and so that was great to have that national platform for this important work. Cami, do you have anything else to add here at all?
No, I think you nailed it. But does anyone have any questions? Let me put my hand down. I think you've nailed it. I know we have a deadline of September 9th, which is Monday? Oh, Friday.
No, it's this Friday. Yeah, 3 days from now.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's daunting, but it really takes about 10 minutes. Like, ideally, we encourage people, like if you have a strategic plan for next year, right, as an organization, and there are things that you're trying to set goals on. Like I know this is the time where some people have their budget reviews or things that you want to accomplish. You start making your plans for 2020 Q3. It's a great way to kind of transfer that into a commitment. So it's not coming up with something that you think you should do just for the sake of making a commitment, but more looking at the work that you're planning to do in the next year. So if you have a target audience or a target number of students or a target number of teachers that you're aiming to hit next year, or a certain deliverable or goal that you're trying to meet, you know, you can think through how that could be your commitment as well, because then it lifts up the work that you're doing and the impact that you're trying to have through the work that you're doing. So just for context, I wanted to share that because some people think, well, I don't know what to make a commitment about. And I don't want to come, it's 3 days, I don't want to come up with something, you know, think through what is your strategic plan for next year? What are your overall goals for 2024? Are there some end of goals, back to school goals that you have for students, or any PD goals? Because it's not just students, it's teachers, it's underrepresented minorities. There's, you know, so many ways that you can make a commitment. And, you know, once you start, there's, like Mecca mentioned, the commitment was that it's great because it helps you kind of organize your thinking. And then it's something that you could just ideally transfer back into the commitment form. We collect a lot of data because, of course, we provide, like I said, a press kit and tools and resources for you to elevate your commitment. But we also provide talking points around like how to talk about your commitment. So we have commitments webinars, you know, and on during the summit, you know, you're able to lift up and talk through that commitment. Sorry. So while it's 3 days away, it's not too daunting. And we can make special arrangements to have, if there are some of you that do want to make a commitment and you don't think that Friday is enough time, you can reach out to us and we'll see if we can extend the deadline for a couple of days, at least through Monday, for you guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Cami. And speaking of what CS4All provides, perhaps I'll invite you to share. You've already addressed some of what is listed here, but maybe I'll invite you to share a little bit more about what CS4All provides in terms of support for commitment makers.
Absolutely. So we do monthly commitments calls. I think the last call is around back to school. It's happening next week. And so it's focused on commitments that have been made to impact schools and students. So we pick a topic area and highlight that. We have the commitments wizard, with the sample statements that you can create. It's within the application. We have something called office hours where you can request time to talk through how you can make a commitment. So if you need more clarity or just one-to-one information to brainstorm or have that conversation around it, we provide those office hours. We do have a Slack channel so you can stay connected with our community members. Of course, we capture, as I mentioned earlier, the commitments impact stories. So, you know, Mecca's 2020 commitments are going to show up in this year's summit in the visualization of the impact that was made through commitments over the last 2 years, right? Because some commitments can be a year, some can be 2 years. It just has to be measurable and impactful. Like there has to be a impact area. And of course, as I mentioned, we spotlight. And of course, because the commitments, the summit is happening in Tennessee, we will definitely spotlight a lot of those local stories. And we're, reaching out to local news, so we have an amazing press team. We're working with Memphis Brand Initiative. So there's opportunities to really highlight and lift up the work because we will be in Tennessee and there will be so much noise made to really get some of those commitments spotlighted.
Thank you, Cami. And so I thought I might take an opportunity to share, a little bit about CodeCrew. We have bought into the commitment framework and that model. For the past couple of years, we made 20 commitments over the past 2 years, so averaging about 10 per year in terms of commitments. At CodeCrew, we've got 8 full-time K-12 instructors. Each one of them make commitments, plus the organization makes commitments. And so, a couple of the examples I thought I might share is that one of the goals that we had at CodeCrew was that we've got instructors we're fanning out in the schools, but not all of them were ready to teach AP Computer Science principles. And so we worked hard to get them all trained to teach AP Computer Science principles, such that we have the flexibility when a school wants to offer it, any one of our instructors can do that. And so not only did we get them the training, but all the ones who were trained ended up leading AP Computer Science classes. And so, that was a great goal for us to publicly state, and then we held ourselves accountable to fulfilling that goal. And another is what we talked about earlier, right? That we were advocating for computer science classes to be in every Tennessee high school. Governor Bill Lee actually said, let's take it another step further and take some of the other elements in the statewide computer science plan, including the high school graduation requirement. And so the CS4TN coalition, for which CodeCrew is a founding member, we worked hard with the governor's office to make sure that there was now computer science in every high school, every middle school, every elementary school, as well as the graduation requirement and the recurring funding for teacher professional development. But again, to what Cami stated as an example, this was something that was on our roadmap, and that's something we decided to articulate in the form of a commitment. And so I am inviting all of you to not only make a commitment, but also to share and help us reach more, make commitments. One of our goals is to get more schools and school districts to actually make commitments, as well as teachers and other nonprofit organizations, corporations, governmental agencies, or anyone else along the lines of the stakeholders that we spoke about earlier. We would love to invite all of you to make a commitment, but also challenge yourselves to convince 3 others or 5 others to make commitments. And I'll just be honest, our friends in Utah, in 2019, they got almost all of their school districts to make commitments. Utah is a smaller state than Tennessee or Arkansas or Mississippi in terms of population. However, I think we can, I want to outdo those guys. And so I'm certainly soliciting your help as well to get the word out and help target even some individuals, especially if you're connected with schools and school districts, but any stakeholders that could be make good potential commitment makers. We're soliciting your help as well to make sure that we are not outdone by our friends in Utah. Nothing against Utah. I just think our part of the country, we can outdo those guys. This is where, again, if you have any questions, we certainly invite them, and feel free to come off mute, or if you prefer to use the chat, that's perfectly fine as well. Great question. Has TSIN made a commitment? Yes. When I last checked, I think they've made at least 2 commitments, which I'm thankful and appreciative of. Becky Ash has been a great friend to CodeCrew and to CSforALL. A great question, Nick. Any other questions? You don't have to, if you don't have to necessarily type it on, you're welcome to, again, come off mute. Going once, going twice.
I'll ask another one. How about the other STEM hubs in Tennessee? Have they all made a commitment yet?
I'll have to look and see. Some of them have, but not all of them have. And so if you can help us in that regard, you're with the East Tennessee STEM Hub, to remind them such that they're not just hearing from me or just hearing from CodeCrew in that regard. If you could convince them to make commitments, that would be tremendously appreciated. Yes.
TSIN has provided a lot of grant funding for CS to most of the STEM hubs in Tennessee, so I'm wondering why they wouldn't make a commitment. But we plan on making the commitment at the East Tennessee STEM Hub. I'll just say that. I can only
Well, excellent.
speak for ourselves.
Excellent. Thank you. And we thank you for your commitment. Well, your commitment to making a commitment. I was about to really be redundant there, but you, yeah, thank you, Nick. Definitely, we very much appreciate you making a commitment. And I know that some of the STEM hubs are connected and communicate regularly. Certainly, yes, if you would also share that you're making a commitment and encourage others to make commitments, that would be appreciated. It would be great to have all 8 of the STEM hubs across Tennessee make such commitments. All right. Well, please don't feel like you can't ask any more questions. If you've got any more questions, feel free. But I thought I might share a little other news as well. We have CodeCrew partners with CS4All, not just for the CS4All Summit, but we're actually joint recipients with CS4All and CSED Research of a $1 million National Science Foundation grant that is a 3-year research practice partnership designed to bring CS4All's script planning tool to nearly 70 districts across Tennessee. What script is it's the strategic CS4All resource and implementation planning tool, really designed to help school districts plan with respect to how they're going to implement computer science education in their respective districts. And in Tennessee, it could not be more critical, especially given now with the legislation that just passed this year, that what's going to take effect in 2024, those 9th graders entering in 2024 will be the first class to actually have computer science as a high school graduation requirement. Computer science will be in every school. That's not something you snap your finger and make happen, right? That's something that needs to be planned, as well as individual local districts' own respective strategic visions for implementing computer science education. The script tool is actually very flexible and downright excellent when it comes to helping districts tailor plans for their districts, for their local districts. And so we are sharing, as widely as we're sharing about the CSforALL Summit, we're sharing about this great opportunity funded by the National Science Foundation to work with close to 70 districts in the state with a strong emphasis on districts that are either rural or predominantly BIPOC, large populations of underrepresented groups, or both. And so our state is in Tennessee is a rural state, and so we've got lots of districts that would qualify. And so we certainly would solicit your support also in helping share the word about that. We're certainly taking that opportunity, and you'll see that at the summit as well, which all of you, when you come to Memphis, you'll have great barbecue and great knowledge, great friendships. And so with that, I thought I might share a couple of slides here about how to reach CodeCrew and how to reach CS4All. If you want to reach out to us, certainly I'm going to share my email address here in the chat as well, but so anyone is welcome to reach out to me directly. In fact, you may have already received an email from me directly, but certainly our website is here. Our general email is team@codecrew.org. That I've got a great team that is waiting for your emails. And you can find us on social media @_CodeCrew. And then our videos, lots of videos that we use to tell our own story. In fact, the video of this webinar will also be uploaded there. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Memphis in October. And then in addition, our friends at CS4All, here's where you can see them on social media. It's including medium.com, where lots of great stories along the lines of what Cami spoke about earlier are, sharing publicly about commitments and your impact in computer science education. Cami's also shared her couple of email addresses in the chat for everyone. And if there are inquiries, you can see here summit@csforall.org. And I want to just thank you all for taking time with us to learn more about CS4ALL commitments. Again, if you have questions, we're happy to answer them. So I'll be here for a few more minutes at least. And if you don't have questions, certainly, again, we encourage you to to, over the next few days, roll up your sleeves and reach out to others to encourage them to make commitments on top of the commitments that each of you are making.
Yeah, because we definitely pull out the commitments from the city. So we'll say in the press release, well, we didn't do it the last 2 years because it was virtual, but for each city, we'll say Detroit committed to 80 organizations across the state of Detroit committed to commitments with CS4All, which rises to the level of a news story, right? Same thing with Utah. We had 50, almost 60 districts, or 50 something districts, plus all of the tech companies and organizations, out of school time organizations making commitments in the state of Utah. So that rose to the level of a news story where they came to the summit, the local news channel, they filmed it. They got statements from commitment makers, news anchors asking, why is this work important? Of course, they want to see kids playing with robots and building things because it lends to the media narrative, but we obliged. But it's a great opportunity to get some media attention at the summit. When we say X amount of organizations in the state of Tennessee have committed to impact and CS education through youth, blah, blah, underserved students, rural communities, things like that. And then we can pitch that. Our comms directors, comms managers really great at like pitching these big stories to the Associated Press and different local and national media to really lift that up to the level of noise making that we aim to do through our summit.
All right, well, thank you, Cami, and Amy, Nick, and Anna Bellin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you as well for coming. Again, if you have questions, I'll be here. So far away. If you don't have questions, then certainly remember that this Friday is September 9th, the deadline for commitments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.